Hello, another Alicia. Hello.
Oh my God.
Right, can everyone see that? Yes, good, good. Right, so in terms of who we are and what we do, I was hoping to actually get over to Luxembourg in May to meet with a number of schools. Unfortunately, for obvious reasons, that was not possible. I also then would have hoped to have got over for this fair in person. Again, unfortunately not possible, but hopefully one day I will get there. I've never been to Luxembourg before, so hopefully I'll get there one day and have a chance to meet with some of you and discuss the fantastic options and opportunities that are available for studying in Australia and New Zealand. So in terms of what we do and who we are, so I'm just trying to let people in as I'm doing this. So we are a completely free service. We're based in the UK, but we're able to assist students from Europe, from Luxembourg as well, in finding the right course, finding the right university. I mean, I guess a lot of our job is to find the right fit for a particular student. I mean, if you look at the size of Australia, it's 33 times the size of the UK. They've got 42 universities, so there's quite a lot to consider, and as well as considering the location and geography of a particular university and the courses that they offer. We also help students with looking at things like climate. So obviously the further north you go, the warmer and more tropical it becomes, which suits people and not others. So we're kind of here to make your lives as easy as possible, and to guide you in the right direction for choosing a university in Australia and New Zealand. Sorry. So in terms of the university systems in Australia and New Zealand, so both Australia and New Zealand were modelled on the British education system. So you will broadly see that degrees are the same length, called the same thing as they are in the UK, with a few exceptions. In terms of recognition, I mean, you have I think it's maybe 8 at the moment universities in the top 100 in the world, maybe more than that, maybe 10. Universities rank very, very strongly in both Australia and New Zealand, both as overall rankings, but also for specific subject rankings. And I'm sure Anthony and Alicia will elaborate on that when they present shortly. So in terms of the qualifications, it is absolutely comparable to the options that you might look at, whether that's the UK, whether that's Canada, whether that's the US, in terms of that really world-class education that you will be getting. And then I guess, again, the other thing to consider is, I touched on there kind of looking at specific subject rankings. So overall rankings, yes, they are important. They are an indicator, but depending on what you want to study, you need to really look down and make sure that that is the right place for you to study that particular area that you want to study. So again, that's something that we can guide you through. So just giving you a bit of an example, and this is a slight difference to how you may experience a degree in the UK, for example. So what we find our undergraduate students are looking for, and why they're choosing Australia, certainly for something like a Bachelor of Arts, is because of its flexibility. It's a bit more like the US liberal arts system, where, and the way I describe it to our students, it's an ability to make a degree very much your own. So you'll see, for example, on here, it's not so restrictive as it is in the UK. You've got the option of, within the Faculty of Arts, having your, obviously having your majors there. The light green there is other courses from within the same faculty. And then you could look at taking some courses from outside of that faculty. So there are some universities in Australia and New Zealand that will insist that up to 25% of your degree must be from outside of your faculty. So like I said, it's a great way of really making that degree your own, and following your interests and what you want to do. One thing to bear in mind, I mean, obviously Australia is a long way away. Australia and New Zealand, long way away. I studied my degree in Australia many years ago now, and I tended to come home once a year. So a lot of things we need to look at is what support is there for me in Australia and New Zealand? What's the kind of accommodation like? In terms of support, each of the universities will have an international office where you can access a whole range of services. I've been sending students to Australia and helping students go to Australia and New Zealand for the last 15 years, and I could count on one hand the number of students who have returned within say the first semester or year, and I like to think that's because they are very well prepared, and also those that need assistance, it's there for them. So looking at accommodation, you'll find accommodation options similar to the UK or to elsewhere in Europe. So you've got the options of residential colleges, you've got university accommodation similar to halls, and then there are private rentals as well, but not something that we would necessarily recommend for first year students. That classic, go into a college or go into university accommodation, meet some people, then go and find somewhere to rent, hopefully near to the beach. As I said, support services, so huge range of services for students to get out there. So any parents that are concerned, any students that are concerned, any schools that are concerned, there is so much help for the students. Could whoever that is mute your Zoom, please? Okay, in terms of costs, look, fees will, anyone that's going to Australia and New Zealand as a non-passport holder will be classed as an international student. So the fees are going to be more than domestic students. There are some scholarships available depending on the academic strength of the applicants. Fees will be set depending on which university you're looking at, and also which course you are applying to. So least expensive courses being a Bachelor of Arts, most expensive courses being those lab-based or clinical programs such as medicine or veterinary science, veterinary medicine. In terms of the option to work, you're eligible to work up to 20 hours per week. Australia calls it 40 hours per fortnight, and then full-time in the holidays. At the end of the course, it is then possible to apply for visas to remain in Australia and New Zealand, sometimes up to typically between 2 to 4 years, depending on where you've studied and which level you've studied at. In terms of the application process, it is fairly straightforward. And again, this is something that we are here to assist you with. It's a completion of, so once we've kind of discussed and gone through the different options and which universities you might like to apply for based on your academic background, based on a number of other factors, we can then look to submit the application. So the applications would typically be done once you have the predicted grades from your schools, and then it is completion of an application form. You would send that to us with your predicted grades, a personal statement, copy of passport, for us to then submit to the universities. There are additional tests for a number of programs, things like medicine and dentistry, and there may also be things such as portfolios for architecture, or interviews, auditions for Bachelor of Dance, Dramatic Studies, that kind of thing. The typical turnaround on an application for undergraduate studies is about 4 to 6 weeks, can be less, can be more. But what we aim to do is make sure that that application that we are submitting is full and concise, so that it's ready to go, and that we get an application as quickly as possible. Sorry, get an offer, hopefully an offer returned as quickly as possible. As I said, we are a completely free service. So we are funded by the universities in Australia and New Zealand to assist students making the applications. We're initially researching the applications. We can waive the application fees, which will typically range between $75 and $500 for each of the universities. It's then assistance with pre-departure. So we'll help you set up bank accounts. We can help you with flights, we can help you with accommodation, and it's then the kind of last piece in the puzzle, assistance, full assistance and visa checking of your student visa application. So student visas to Australia usually come through within either a matter of minutes through the automated system, up to maybe a week for European students. So that's a bit about us. So you have got my details there. So by all means, if you've got any questions, if you would like to have a brief discussion over Zoom or over the phone, then by all means drop me an email or give me a call. But yeah, we're here to make your lives a lot easier. So even if it's just, I suspect a lot of you are very much at that early stage of looking at different options outside of Luxembourg. So if you've got any questions from cost to universities to weather to where's best for this sport, where's best for this program, then please reach out to me. Okay, so I'm now going to pass over to Anthony, who will now talk to you about his university, which is Macquarie University in Sydney. Also, along the way, if you've got any questions, by all means, feel free to type them into the Q&A, into the chat box. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Stefan, and welcome. Hello, everybody. Right, some of you, I think Lena Marassi, you don't have your microphone muted. If you could all just mute it. It's very interesting hearing what you're all getting up to in the background, but just for ease of communication, might be good if everyone has the thing on mute. My name's Anthony, and just bearing in mind the time constraints we have, I'm going to keep this quite quick, and we're going to go for a little presentation. So I represent Macquarie University, which is based in Sydney, in Australia, and I'm going to be asking you all a couple of questions at the end, so pay attention, and there'll be a full scholarship to the University of Queensland if you get it right. Just joking.
There won't be.
Anyway, Macquarie University is based in Sydney. Now, Sydney is not the capital of Australia. It is the largest city, but it isn't the capital. So Sydney has about 5.5 million people, and it is tucked away down in the southeast of the country. And for those of you that have not been to Australia, that is an overview of what Sydney looks like. So it's built around one of the largest natural harbors in the world. And Australian people really do pay a lot of attention into balancing their study and their work life with their leisure time. So I'm actually a British Australian, so I've got a foot in both camps. I did my bachelor's degree in the UK and my master's degree in Australia. And I guess the big difference is that Australians do tend to focus a lot in what happens after they finish their studies. The weather is warmer. When they use the word cold, it just simply means that the air conditioning is turned up too high. It's a lot different, their version of cold, to what we would consider cold over in Europe. So studying in Australia, this is not just Sydney, this is basically Australia as a whole. Australia is a great land of opportunity. For those of you that know your history, post-colonial Australian history is only about 200, 250 years old. So in the last couple of hundred years, it's seen waves and waves of migration from people from all over the world. I think Melbourne in the southern part of Australia has the largest population of Greeks outside of Athens in Greece alone. So you'll find that there's a very, very multicultural population. And with that comes an element of tolerance and a different sort of ethos as to how they approach their life. Very, very high level of safety. I know Luxembourg is a very safe part of the world. Australia is as well. It's got a very large middle class, which drives the economy. So there's a very low level of unemployment and a very, very high level of life satisfaction. Stefan will probably be able to touch on this a little bit later, but if you study in Australia, your student visa contains a work permit, which allows you up to 40 hours of part-time work while you're studying. It won't be enough to cover your fees, but it certainly will be supplementary enough to sort of give you a bit of pocket money. And there are very, very good employment opportunities in the larger cities, whether it's in Brisbane or in Sydney or in Melbourne. Most international students, in fact, most domestic students will actually do some form of part-time work. So the employees, the shops, the restaurants, the clubs, the pubs, they understand that if an international student comes in with their international passport, they understand that there is a work permit embedded, and therefore it is relatively easy to find work. So this is a couple of nice colorful pictures to show you some of the things you might want to get up to while you're studying in Sydney. Top left corner, you've got the Opera House, which is very often used as a screen for theatre productions these days. You could try your hand at surfing. Surfing, of course, very, very popular in Australia, but do remember that the further back you go in that picture, the more you become part of the food chain. If you want to see sharks from a much more close-up distance, we've got various aquatic centres and underground museums and theatres and walk through aquariums and things. As I mentioned before, the lifestyle in Australia is very different to what it is in Europe. It's a much more outdoorsy sort of place. So obviously this is related to the weather, but the climate in Australia is very conducive to people getting outside. So a lot of the areas have free barbecue areas. A lot of the area has free Wi-Fi area. So Sydney does afford itself quite a lot of outdoor leisure pursuits as well. Most of the larger beaches, some of you might have seen Bondi Rescue or some you know about Bondi. Most of the larger beaches will have what they call ocean pools. So a lot of students that study at Macquarie, they'll hop on the train that goes down to the city and they'll go for a swim before class even starts. And there are open air cinemas as well. So that's a little bit about Sydney in a nutshell. That's 5 minutes in and I'm trying to keep it sort of short and sweet. So a little bit about the university itself. As Stefan mentioned, there are 42 universities in Australia. Most of them are government run, government audited, government accredited, government approved. And Macquarie University is one of those. Now, in saying that, we do own the land that the university is based on. There are 126 hectares of park-like campus. And like I said, park-like campus, and it's like a single, it's like a town, basically. It's a one-stop shop. Your accommodation, your lecture theatres, your sports centre. We have a hospital on campus. We have a train station on campus. So everything is in one place. And whenever I speak to students and ask them what they like about Macquarie, that's the answer I get, that it doesn't matter what they're up to, where their friends are, what their friends are studying, everything is in the same place. So you could wake up in the morning, roll out of bed, go for a swim, fall off your bicycle, twist your wrist, go to the hospital, go shopping. You can do the whole thing without actually having to leave the university campus. And at the end of the day, when your pen goes down, you can take a train directly from the university into Sydney itself and catch up with your friends there. So in terms of lifestyle, it is a very, very nice way to balance your life with your studies and your leisure pursuits while you're studying there. It's a relatively young university. We're established in 1964, which makes it 3 years older than me. Okay, so 5 points if you can guess how old I am. We've got about 40,000 students. About 25% of those are international from over 130 different countries. And again, as Stefan mentioned, the universities tend to have very, very flexible offerings. So you could marry a Bachelor of Arts with a Bachelor of Science. At postgraduate level, you could put 2 one-year masters together to make a 2-year master's degree. So the number of specializations within the broader programs, like a Bachelor of Arts, a Bachelor of Science, a Bachelor of Business, are huge. In our Bachelor of Arts, for example, you can do archaeology, anthropology, right the way down to zoology, and things like policing and counterterrorism. So there are a huge number of opportunities available for you. So again, as Stefan mentioned, you're probably at the beginning of figuring out what it is you want to study. If you don't know, you can choose a Bachelor of Arts and try your hand at a number of different options. And another thing the university does quite well is that in the background of that picture there, you can see we have a number of companies on campus. So it's one of the objectives of having a large privately owned campus is that we can rent office space out to large companies like Microsoft or Oryx or Deloitte or Optus. So some students that are looking for part-time work or volunteer work or any sort of experience are now beginning to get their CVs together, knock on the door of these offices and ask if there is any work. And running across the top there, there's a couple of our accolades. On the left-hand side, you can see that we're ranked in the top 1% in the world. And this year we were actually ranked #1 in Australia for graduate employment. So we try very hard to link your academic pursuits with what you do afterwards. I mean, that's why you're going to university, right? To get a good job. So that's one of the focuses that we do look at. So just looking at the campus, as I said, it's a huge area. That whole area here that I'm sort of circling with the cursor is part of the university. We actually own this land over here to the left as well. And we're looking at how we can utilize that sort of area. So there's our train station right in the middle. Trains run every 3 minutes right into Sydney in the background. So if you do really need the big smoke, you can then get into the city. And down in the bottom right is our Sports and Aquatic Centre, which is actually Olympic compatible. Now then, what is the university famous for? So the rankings we talk about is mainly to do with research output, which then becomes industrial applications. So the university is relatively famous for a number of things. Not all of these you will know, but I'm fairly sure you would have heard of Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi was actually originally developed at Macquarie University by 2 of our electrical engineering academics. And since then, it's been incorporated into a global scale innovation. I mean, I'm fairly sure all of you have got Wi-Fi mobiles if you're not using them right now. We've also sort of pushed this into other areas. So we do a lot of work in cybersecurity, a lot of work in mechatronics, a lot of work in robotics. So things that are very relevant for 21st studies are some of the areas that we focus on. So what you need to be thinking about when you do choose your subjects is, when you come out of university, what is going to be relevant? Candle making, that's long gone. You mean to be focusing on things like electrical engineering, social engineering, biotechnology. These are things now that are going to get you the new kind of jobs that are becoming more and more prevalent. Those are the areas. It's a comprehensive university. So for those of you familiar with the German style Fachhochschulen that focus on the sciences, and there are French École Grande that focus on business, etc. Australian universities don't work like that. They are comprehensive. So these are the academic areas that we work with: business, education, engineering and IT, environment, health, law and criminology, media, science, society, history and languages, and then the postgraduate suite of programs. And that is what our structure of the university looks like. Arts, Faculty of Arts, Faculty of Business and Economics, Human Sciences, Medicine and Health, Science and Engineering, Graduate School of Management for the postgraduate business students, and Macquarie University International College for students who don't meet the initial entry requirements. So what I'm trying to say is that we have a pathway in from pretty much every angle. And again, very, very important. I know you guys all speak wonderful English. I know you're probably very, very widely traveled, but as Stefan mentioned, Australia is a long way away. So we're very, very aware of the fact that you may be feeling a little bit homesick. You might have a bit of culture shock. Your mum might ring you up and say that your pet goldfish has died. You know, a little bit of bad news carries a lot of weight when you're on the other side of the planet. So we do have a team of counselors and advisory staff that will actually be able to help you if you're having any sort of issues. We'll meet you at the airport. We've got a team of people that can help you if you're having any issues. We've got a medical clinic on campus if you hurt yourself, as you would expect, because we've got a hospital. And for those of you who are struggling with the way Australian universities expect you to structure the assignments, we've got language and literacy and numeracy workshops that we can help you with. We also have a careers and employment service. So for students that are really looking for part-time work, we can help you with interview techniques. We can help tweak your CV. We can help you we can point you in the right direction to where you might find part-time work. So that's Macquarie University in a nutshell. It is not 3 o'clock in the morning in Sydney at the moment where I am. I'm actually based in the UK, which means, like Stefan said, if you do want more information, that is my contact details. I'm more than happy to talk to you directly or through study options or however you want to work. So in the interests of time, I'm now going to hand you over to my colleague Alicia, who will tell you a little bit more about the University of Queensland.
So Anthony, can you make Alicia the host?
Yep, no problem. How do I do that? Share screen. Multiple. How do I do that? Sorry, Stefan?
In participants, I think.
In participants. Does that work?
Let me try. Nope, it says disabled screen sharing. Okay. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, does that, I don't know how to do this. What did you more?
You click on.
Oh, here we go. It's working now. It's working.
All done?
Yeah, all done. Thank you.
Cool, no worries.
All right. Hello, everyone. So I'm the last one up to tell you a little bit about the University of Queensland. My name is Alicia, and just like Anthony and Stefan, even though we work for the Australians and we work for Australian universities, we're all based in the UK. So I am here as well. Anytime you need any help, you're welcome to have a web chat with me or communicate via study options and Stefan. So first of all, I wanted to just give you a little introduction to the University of Queensland. We are a member of the Group of 8, which are the 8 big research universities in Australia. So universities like the University of Sydney, the University of Melbourne, and these are they're sort of the big research hubs of Australia. We are currently one of the hubs for trying to develop a COVID vaccine in Australia. It sounds as though that might already have happened, so we might have missed the boat there. But we're very famous for things like vaccine development and other kind of immunology and pharmacy and those kind of subjects. And the cervical cancer vaccine was actually developed at our university. About 10% of our students are PhD students as well. So that's also quite a large percentage of students who are studying research as well. But we offer bachelor's and master's programs as well as PhDs. We offer everything that you would expect from a university. This is some of our major world rankings. And to give you an idea, sometimes people ask, well, what is your sort of main subject areas? And you can see from this list that actually it's really difficult for us to choose the main subject areas because we do pretty well in a whole bunch of subjects across the board. Some of the most noticeable ones, we're ranked first in Australia for environmental sciences. And some of the environmental sciences that we teach are really exciting. We have things like marine science and marine biology. We also have a load of research stations on islands in the Great Barrier Reef and in some of the national parks in Queensland state as well. So if you're interested in doing something like conservation or environment, definitely UQ is a good one to look at. We're also ranked 3rd in the world for sports science. So obviously, if you want to study sports, that's great. But also, even if you just play sports, the facilities that we have on campus are really high quality. As in general, Australia actually has very high quality sport facilities on university campuses. But particularly because we want to maintain our high ranking in sports, we really invest a lot of money into our sport facilities. Another big one that we're very famous for is psychology. We have a huge and really wide-ranging psychology department. We have like educational psychology, organizational psychology, clinical psychology, all the different psychologies that you could imagine. And another thing we're quite famous for as well is pharmacy. And we have a really interesting program. It's quite unique, called the Master of Pharmaceutical Industry Practice, for students who are interested in going into the pharmacy industry. So really, I mean, it's impossible for me to say, oh, you know, this is our main subject. We have a huge range of subjects and a huge range of strengths, but those are just a few of the kind of ones that I tend to get the most inquiries for from European students. As I mentioned, we are a big research university. As well as being a member of the Group of 8, we're also the #1 ranked university in Australia for research, according to the Nature Index in 2019. But we're not all about research. We're also really strong in teaching. Something that you'll probably notice in Australian universities in general is that the teaching quality is really strong, and that you get a lot of contact hours when you study in Australia. So that means a lot of time in lectures and seminars. In Australia, there are some teaching awards every year for innovative and supportive teaching, and we've won more of those awards than any other Australian university. So both in research and in teaching, we've got a lot of accolades. As outside of the classroom, of course, you also want extra things as well. So as Anthony mentioned, you might want to have some career advice, you might want to do sports, you might want to do all sorts of things. We have a huge range of support services and extracurricular activities that can help you. So for example, when you all arrive in UQ, there are a bunch of welcome seminars to help you to get to know all of the computer systems that you're going to need. And there's all sorts of support for helping you to write a CV or get an internship, or networking with people in the industry that you want to go into, and that kind of thing as well. And as well, I just sort of touched on there, we're very close to industry. Our what do you call it? The fair that we organize every year, where various companies come in to talk to our students. That's one of the largest in Australia. But each of our faculties also has its own employability team, specifically to help you get connected with the job role that you want to go into and the companies that are most important for that particular job. So really, we do a lot to try and help to make sure that you're really employable when you graduate. As well as that, we have a lot of connections with companies who help to design the curriculum. So we've just completely overhauled a lot of our programs, including, for example, the Bachelor of Engineering. And that has been designed in conjunction with engineering companies who have given their insight into some of the real life challenges that they have faced, so that our students can try and figure out a way to solve those challenges. So even if you don't do any internships, even if you don't do any networking, even just studying the curriculum is going to be helping to prepare you for the world of work. It's going to give you a really good idea of the kind of challenges and that you'll face in your employment when you've graduated. As well as trying to help you to get a job at an existing company, the other thing that we do quite well at UQ is we offer a lot of entrepreneurship and innovation opportunities. So a lot of our students these days are much more interested in trying to set up their own company and their own entrepreneurial idea, rather than going and working in a big firm like used to be the case about 10 years ago. We actually have 3 different entrepreneurship entities in the campus. We have Ideate, Validate, and Accelerate. And so the UQ Idea Hub is at the idea stage, when you would be just learning about how to come up with a concept, how to be an entrepreneur. And then we have at the Validate stage, we have the Startup Academy. And that is for when you have an idea and you want to try and maybe partner up with entrepreneurs in that Startup Academy, and also other students who want to be entrepreneurs as well, who might be able to bring their own knowledge, and you can work together to try and set something up. And we also have lots of sort of international trips and support and competitions that can help you with that. And then if you have a really good idea, you can submit it to the iLab Germinate program and try and actually get some funding to help with your idea. And then that's the point when, you know, things really can start happening. So if you're interested in setting up your own company, certainly UQ is a good university to look at. We do a lot with entrepreneurship. We also at PhD level have a group called UQ UniQuest, and they are all about commercializing research. So if you have done a PhD that you think you've, you know, developed a concept or a product that would be really marketable, we can also help you to take that to market as well. So talked a little bit about the serious stuff. As Anthony mentioned, there's another big side of studying in Australia, which is the environment and the location. We are located in Brisbane, which is just halfway up the east side of Australia. And we are, Brisbane is the 3rd largest city in Australia with about 2.5 million people. So it's a huge city. And it's about half the size of Sydney or Melbourne. But the best thing about Brisbane, in my opinion, is the weather. So it's a subtropical climate, which means that in the summer, it's pretty hot and humid. And when it does rain, it's like tropical rain for an hour and then it clears up. But when it's winter, in inverted commas, it's about 21 degrees in the day and about 10 degrees at night. So it really is not winter as we Europeans would understand it. Some other exciting things that we have in Queensland State, just north of Brisbane, off the coast, we have the Great Barrier Reef. Which obviously is a fantastic place to visit. But as I mentioned, we also have a research station there. So you can actually study there as well. There are some courses you can do. And then just south of Brisbane, we have the Gold Coast, which is a really exciting place if you want to go surfing, if you want to go partying, if you want to go to theme parks and things like that. There's a direct train that can take you to the Gold Coast, which is a really good place to spend a weekend. And then just south of New South Wales, you've also got Byron Bay. So anyone who's been backpacking in Australia or who has backpacking, that's often a real popular stop off for backpackers and definitely worth visiting. So there's loads of things to do. The only thing I would say is that we do have this little island just off the coast of Brisbane called Stradbroke Island, which is a fantastic place to visit. It's a nature reserve in its own right. There's wild kangaroos and dolphins and all sorts of things around there, and it's well worth going to. But because we have this island, we don't have a beach in Brisbane. If you want to go surfing, you have to go up to the Sunshine Coast or down to the Gold Coast, about an hour in each direction. We do, however, have a man-made beach in the middle of the city. So if all you want to do is go sunbathing and feel some sand between your toes, you don't actually have to leave the city. You can actually just stay there. Here's a picture of the campus. This great big green blob in the foreground of the picture is the campus. And as you can see, it's like a little village within the city. Over here in the center of the picture, you've got the center of Brisbane, and it's about 15 minutes by bus to get from the CBD to the campus itself. As you can see, as I mentioned, we've got a lot of sport facilities on the campus. You can't see it, but tucked behind here, we have 2 outdoor swimming pools. Outdoor because the weather is so good, they don't need to be inside. We have 21 tennis courts, beach volleyball, rugby, cricket, football, handball, athletics, basketball, all the Pilates and yoga you can imagine, anything you can think of. And we've also got the river over here. So you can do things like canoeing and wakeboarding and lots of aquatic sports as well. And as I mentioned, you can get to the campus by bus in 15 minutes, but if it's a nice day, as it often is, you can also take the boat. There is a City Cat boat that comes just from north of the CBD all the way around, and it drops you on the final stop at the university campus, and that takes about half an hour. You can also ride your bike if you decided to live in the city centre, which a lot of students do. You can ride your bike along the side of the river. There's cycle tracks that are completely safe and separate from the roads and really convenient as well. So it's a really modern, sunny, outdoorsy, sporty kind of city and kind of university as well. It's a tough place to study, but it's also a lot of fun. We offer pretty much everything you can imagine. The only things we don't have are sort of art and aviation. Really, nearly everything else we have. So if whatever program you're thinking of, if you like the sound of UQ, please contact Study Options and they can double check what programs we have specifically for you. And as well as having individual programs, we also give you options to combine programs together. So sometimes you could do, for example, a Bachelor of Arts, and within there you could do 2 majors, maybe a language and politics, or music and psychology. You could really combine different things. And then at master's level, we also have a few dual programs as well. So you can do things like international law with international relations, for example. So there are a variety of different ways that you can combine subjects. And when you're combining 2 bachelor's degrees, you can start with 2 and make a decision if you want to continue with 2 or drop down to 1 or the other. So it's really very flexible. We are a relatively expensive university. The fees in Australia in general are, not cheap, but also at a university like UQ, the university fees are quite high. But we do have some scholarships as well. Some are fully international scholarships for any student, any international student. But particularly if you're thinking of coming for a master's program in business, economics or law, we have a really good European Global Leaders Scholarship, which is a 50% or 100% scholarship, and it's only for European students. So you have a really good chance of getting that if you have high grades. The key thing for all of our scholarships is that you need to have the highest possible grades. And then finally, just to give you a little idea about life at UQ, outside of the classroom, we have about 220 clubs and societies, ranging from very serious things like UNICEF Society. They do lots of fundraising, all the way through to silly things like the Wine and Cheese Appreciation Society and Harry Potter Alliance, all of those kind of things. And then there's all the sports societies, the subject societies, the international country societies. There's a huge range of things you can do. And right now, as everybody is studying online because of coronavirus, we've also tried to recreate our social scene as a virtual village. So even if you are studying online, if you want to start right away and can't enter Australia straight away, there is still a social life for students who want to study online as well. So that's it from me, and you can see a few of our sort of social media things here, but I'll hand back to Stefan now in case there's anything else that he wants to see.